Okay, here we go. This is Jerzy Drozd of jdrozd.com, leanintoart.com. I'm a cartoonist and teaching artist. Oh, I make a webcomic called Boulder and Fleet at boulderandfleet.com. I'll say the links a lot to the... There we go. Gotta stop. I stopped my live stream preview because I was listening to myself. All right, so what do we got here? This is a page of Rockets, Science Comics Rockets, coming out next year. Next spring. And working on some inks today in Clip Studio Paint on the Vaio Z canvas. There's no way I'm going to be able to finish all of this page in an hour, but I will do my best. I'll be watching the chat for any comments or questions while I work. I'll do a little bit of describing what I'm doing while I work. But there's also some royalty-free music playing in the background. And right here we got Robert Goddard launching his rocket in the 1920s. And I have to draw the... What is this? This is like the gantry for his early rockets. And I'm using some ruler tools to get started. I know in other live streams I've extolled the virtues of Clip Studio Paint and its ruler tools. They're very nice. If Photoshop has anything like this, I have yet to hear about it. I've asked, and nobody can tell me if it does or not. This may seem like a lot of puttering to draw one simple shape, but this, in my mind, means that I only have to throw down essentially one stroke to get exactly the way I want it, rather than doing like a whole bunch of undos. So there's like a little bit of setup for a payoff of a really quick ink line. Nice, look at that. Two nice straight lines. I just delete the rulers when I'm done. There, I think, is this part of it too. And the gantry is drawn, so now I can do the grass. Switch to my soft inks layer. Let's draw some grass. I like to ink on lots of layers. I even like the pencil on lots of layers too. I mean, the feature's there. Why not use it? I'm gonna have to erase that because I gotta put this on a vector layer. It does require a little bit of organization, more so than it would if I was just doing this on paper. But the payoff is that it makes coloring it happen a lot easier. Coloring is super easy with this multi-layer method. All right, so I gotta draw the rocket now. There you are. This looks like I freehanded it before. because it's really tiny. I mean, in respect to the page, I mean, look at it there. You can see itty bitty rocket. No need to be super uptight about. And what's more is I find that if I'm super uptight and precise about drawings that are that small, it just makes everything look really brittle and rigid. Freehanding it loosens it up just a little bit. Speaking only for my own work, I'm not talking about anybody else's work, and I wouldn't tell anybody else how to draw their comics. Unless they were taking a class of mine. Rocket Blast. Let's do that next. I always forget to close my brush palette, get it out of the way. It's spotted an area up here I want to fix. No, I don't. It looks fine. Alright. Now to erase some of those background inks. There we go. Now I got some lovely overlap going on. And Rocket Blast. Finish the inks on the Rocket Blast. There we go. Now for speed lines. Here's another really terrific ruler in Clip Studio Paint. The focus curve ruler. That's how I penciled in these speed lines, these curved speed lines showing the arc of the rocket. Years ago, when I first started working digitally, this had been about the time when I was doing some freelance work for Antarctic Press. I was doing some backup stories for Ninja High School, and later on wound up working on a couple issues of Ninja High School. They sent me this book that they sold called, it was like a how to color comics book. It was like, they're like, well, you're going to be doing color comics for us now, so here's the way we do it. Maybe this will help you. And it came with a CD full of scans of different speed lines that you could put in the backgrounds of your work. And I used this a lot when I was working there. And I mean, I wound up using it later when I was working on some of my own comics. But, you know, even though there was like 60 or 70 different speed line drawings in there, I mean, it was just, so imagine just this background that I'm drawing right now of just the speed lines, right? Without any other art overlapping it. So then you could just like drop it in with Photoshop and mask out the areas that you don't want the speed lines to show up in, or just erase them all together, whatever. But it became this asset, this bank of assets that I used in a lot of my comics. But even though there were like 60 or 70 different speed line drawings in there, it's like eventually, you know, it's like, you know, comics have a lot of panels. Eventually you're going to use them all. at some point. And eventually you're going to find a use case where it's like, oh, I needed it to be this pattern. I wish I had one that was like arced just this way. So it's another reason I love this application so much is it's got this great tool. So I can get an arcing pattern exactly the way I want it. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of, well, no. I think that's fine. It looks good. It'll look even better when I put some color holds on it and fade it into the background a little bit more. So anyway, yeah. Love the ruler tools. Time to ink some characters. Maybe this page will go by pretty fast. I hope so. I purposely designed some of these pages to be quick to ink, knowing that I was going to be under a tight deadline on this. Ink the buttons just yet. Or that for that matter. Just got to get his outer contours done. Good. You were animals? Oh, hey, Jonathan. Good to see you in the YouTube chat. I'm also streaming on watchmework.com. Jonathan, have you heard of that? Watch Me Work is this platform where it's like trying to connect artists. So it's like it's like what I'm doing here on YouTube, like Twitch. You know, you're broadcasting for an audience, but it's also to connect you with other art broadcasters. They're doing this crazy thing where there's like paired streaming, where you're streaming and you automatically get paired up with another artist, and it might not be the same discipline. You know, like might be a musician, might be a sculptor. An interesting concept. And you basically just plug in the URL to your YouTube stream into their platform, and it just auto-populates. Oh, it's called watchmework.com. I haven't been part of a paired stream yet. I mean, it just launched. I mean, it was like a brand new feature that just launched, I think, like this week. But they've been talking about it for a while now. So I'll be curious to see how that goes, especially since like I run music in my live streams. I mean, I guess like in that case, I'd want to shut my music off because you'd want to facilitate discussion between you and the other artists, right? What's going on background? How many layers do you use when you ink, Jonathan? I know you work digitally. I was teaching a Clip Studio Paint class recently, and the kids were kind of agog at when they opened up some of the Boulder and Fleet pages that I gave them as samples, and they saw they were like 80 or 90 layers sometimes, with all the different folder groupings, panel groupings. Some grass there. I'm pretty sure that I'm overdoing it with all the layers that I've got. I think a lot of it is preventative, right? It's like I don't. Oh man, I just remember back in the old days when I used to ink on Bristol and scan it and try to tone it, having to do holds, any kind of holds on anything, where I had to like carefully trace with the lasso tool the different pieces of line art that I wanted to do holds on. It was it was just so unpleasant. It was such a tedium that if I can put something that I'm going to put holds on another layer so that I can just do a paint bucket on it, I'm happy. But I don't always do color holds. I'm not doing them all the time. Wait. So you 2 to 4 layers for inking, but you work in the DC Comics Guide to digitally drawing the comic way, so there's like 1 to 20 per character. Oh, I have not read this book. This is but I know of it. Oh gosh, what's his name? Freddie Williams? Is that who did that book? I need to look at that. And what application does he use? Is this a Photoshop inking? Because I remember another thing that flipped me out was when I was using the Antarctic Press's guide to computer coloring. They had a method in there that they listed where you use channels to color. Like you did everything in channels instead of layers. I mean, so like you wound up only having a couple layers in the end. Oh, that would be awesome, Jonathan. I would love to see like the construction of one of your pages to see how you put it together. That'd be really cool. Thank you in advance. Because yeah, I mean, like my layer structure is like here's my panel folders, right? And I do essentially 3 layers for each major element. So my background has a vector layer, a holds layer, and then a softenings layer, or rather a raster layer. And it's like that for everything. So the 3 major elements in this panel are the background elements, the rocket blast, right? And then the speed lines in the background, and then my characters. So what does that break down to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 layers in that one panel. I've got 4 panels. We've got 36 layers automatically, right? And this is before we got the colors in there. Plus pencils. How many layers do I have in my pencils folder? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So already we're at like closing in on 40 layers before we've even gotten to color. Where was I with this? Oh, I was going to do my characters' raster inks. Happy Robert Goddard. Launching his rocket in Worcester, Massachusetts. Let's see, what was this, 1924? I think. Oh, hey, Owen. I forgot about paths. I forgot about paths in Photoshop. You are right. That would essentially be the equivalent to the rulers, the special ruler tools in Clip Studio Paint. Gosh, I haven't used paths in so long. When I worked at the newspaper when I was in my early 20s, we used paths. That was the way we did. Like when you'd see like grocery advertisements where like the gallon of milk would be cut out and placed in the ad. And this would be like way back in like Photoshop version 3, not CS3, but like literally version 3. And it was like this. Oh gosh, I don't think that there was a polygonal lasso tool yet. Maybe there was. I don't remember for sure, but I remember the method we had to use was we had to use the paths tool to create a clipping path to cut out the image. I think that was the last time I've used paths. So, oh, and how many layers do you have when you color? Let me ask you that. Come on. I probably asked you that when you were on the Lean Into Artcast, actually. Well, to be fair, you say that, the paths tool is very powerful but not very intuitive. I'm not so sure that the ruler tool in Clip Studio Paint is terribly intuitive. Like, the only reason that I got it at all was because I'd used Adobe Illustrator a lot in my formative years. So I was used to messing around with Bezier curves and whatnot. And I remember when I was trying to teach my young students, and even some adult students, and I had an adult Clip Studio Paint class, trying to teach them how to use the ruler tools, and I'm dancing around all excited, like aren't these awesome? They weren't necessarily getting it right away. Wasn't the clearest implementation of. I don't know how else you do it though. I really don't. Okay. Oh, forgot duck's face. Rooster's other tail, feather. So there's our narrators watching Robert Goddard launch a rocket. Let's hide my pencils there real quick so I can do a quick selection. Boom. Deselect. I want to select all layers. For corn's sake. For other layers to select all layers. There we go. Great. Now I turn back on my speed lines layer and mask it. Boom. Integrated. Oh, and 100 layers on a spread. Oh my gosh. That doesn't sound unreasonable to me. Now let's see if I got the ruler saved from when I did this background. Oh no, did I not? I guess I didn't. You have to make a new ruler for my background in panel 2. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'll let you know what I think, but I owe you one. Pretty close. Yeah, so see, like, messing with, I don't even know if these are visible on the screen, but like adjusting the ruler with these sort of anchor points, like that was a sticking point for a lot of my young students. Yeah, I can't even imagine him. I mean, you're working at like 450 DPI, right? CMYK, full size spread, 100 layers. Yeah. That's although If you want to justify to your partner why you have to have like a top-of-the-line rig, there you go. I'm gearing up to do some PSA posters for a client, and they want them, I don't know how big it would be in centimeters. Or it would essentially be like 1 meter by 1.5 meters high res, full color. And my machine's like fairly new, but I'm not looking forward to how slow that's gonna chug when I start to work. Oops. By the way, hello there, E. Whoa. See, I'm so glad I decided to live stream today because I'm learning so much. You work in RGB with a CMYK preview overlaid, which helps a lot with the file size. Is this like an adjustment layer that you create, Owen? Oh, with those PSA posters, I'm definitely going to try to work with as few layers as possible. I'm not going to do the nutty persnickety stuff I do with my comics work like this. If there's a way to do a CMYK adjustment layer, well, that wouldn't help me much on this project because I'm inking in Clip Studio Paint, which sadly still doesn't have CMYK support. You work with proof colors ticked, and I have the proof settings at the CMYK preview. See, this is my ignorance of Photoshop. It's been so long since I've even used Photoshop beyond anything other than like image resizing. I've got I think CS5 on my Mac, and I hardly ever use it anymore because I do all of my drawing in this now. But the thing I'm running into with this is that it doesn't have CMYK support, and this is for, it's going to be an offset printed book, so I have to export as CMYK Photoshop files. I'm not doing any drawing in Photoshop. I'm just sort of combining the lettering with the art and then sending it off to the publisher. It doesn't adjust the colors themselves, but it shows you what the CMYK output will be whilst you work in RGB. You untick it while working, it instantly shows you what the RGB file looks like. That sounds incredibly useful. Because yeah, right now it's like I have to actually export as a PSD file, then open it up in Photoshop. So to proof my colors, there's a little bit of a cost there. Oh, goodness sake. Not that. Did I delete that ruler? Please tell me I deleted that ruler. I did not. There we go. Hey, Cam. You go to the view, then profile and Clip Studio Paint. You can make it do the same thing. Show us Really? Hold on. Dang it. I am so glad you guys are all here. Thank you. I'm going to go to view and profile. Preview settings. Oh my lord. There's a CMYK preview in here. Cam, I owe you a Coke. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you. See, this is like pure evidence of why working alone in the studio can be detrimental to your work. Because, like, if I was in a studio with all of you guys right now in real life, like, that conversation would happen very naturally. And there, like, what would be, like, how much faster would we learn how to do what we need to do with our stuff, right? And I could be as misanthropic as anybody, but dang. Yeah, so you literally just found out the paint bucket doesn't actually need a selection to fill in shapes. Yeah, and like the fact that you can change the paint bucket to interact with all the layers or just some of the layers or just the layer it's on, right? Like, yeah. Yeah, I am not beating myself up for not knowing this. What I'm like, it's like some of my relatives sometimes when they find out that I do these live streams and podcasts and stuff, they're like, "Why would you do that?" You know, they see it as such a distraction from my work. Like, why would, you know, you're supposed to be working. Why would you be talking with people? I'm like, but it's stuff like this, like when, you know, an art buddy leans over your shoulder, like, well, you know, there's a faster way to do that, or there is a way to do that. You know, that's why. Because we can't afford to all work in joint studios. So we do this. You guys literally, I mean, I'm not fooling. Like, you just changed the whole complexion of my day. Like, today was going to be all about, like, tough grinding and, like, I got to get a lot of pages done today. And, like, doing a lot of triage where I'm looking at the, you know, my schedule going like, well, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. I'll figure that out when I have to. Right now, I got to do this. Oops. And thank you guys for also being amazed about learning this stuff too, because like this is one of those things where I have a 14-year-old intern right now who's doing flats for me on this book, and she has grown up. She's 14, right? So she's only been using Photoshop for 7 years. So she's just all of this is taken for granted, right? It's just that's the way it works. That's all. I mean, why are you so amazed by it? So she's so unimpressed by a lot of this stuff. And I mean, that's cool. It's awesome that she gets to grow up in a world where all this stuff is like so much easier and accessible. That's terrific. But like, there's like this clear bewilderment at how excited I get when I discover an easy way to do something, or like, because like my students all the time will show me new ways to do things, and I get really, really worked up about it, super happy. I think that's also part of function of them being teenagers, and, you know, when you're a teenager, it's not cool to get excited about anything. Am I in the background layer? Yes, I am. Okay. I get to ink cabbages in a minute here. Very exciting. These windows out of my way. My favorite things in the world to ink, and I think a lot of people know I love inking rocks and stuff and boulders and debris. I love anything where I get to do an irregular line. And I mean like irregular with the value of the line. Because you can do a nice sweeping contour on a character and get some good line value on there, and that's very satisfying. But there's something very satisfying about doing the kind of bloopy, wobbly line on something like a cabbage. Yes, we had to ink barefoot in the snow uphill both ways. I'm totally going to use that. what I hope I'm doing with my students when I get really excited about like when they teach me something new, is I hope I'm modeling for them, behaviors, right? To not feel ashamed for not knowing, but to be excited for learning something new, hopefully. And there's no way a 16-year-old kid is going to let you know that that's how they're internalizing it, right? Years of working with them has conditioned me to interpret it as, like, I honestly feel like it's cute when they roll their eyes at me. And I think that's a privilege of being an art instructor who sees so many kids, pass through his classes over the years, because, like, I only get to interact with them for a little while. It's not like a parent who has to live with them, but also it's like I get to see the same syndrome over and over again, right? Like, so, like, when you're a parent and you got these kids, it's like they're teenagers once and then they move on, right? And then you're always dealing with the next level of development. Whereas, like, every year I get a new batch of 13 to 15-year-olds in my class, and I see over and over again the same thing, just with new inflection, new style, new, thankfully, broader sense of what identity is, which I think is really cool. That's changed a lot just in the last 7 years with the kids that I work with, and it's really exciting to see how free and how do I want to say it? How natural it feels to them to explore that. Like, it doesn't feel odd. They're not doing it to be rebellious or to make a point. It's just like, this is just like what you do. It's a question you ask yourself now, and they're not afraid to do it. I love that. But, like, the big ideas, not wanting to expose any not wanting to reveal anything about yourself, not wanting to be embarrassed. I'm gonna put the smoke in another layer. That hasn't changed a bit. First week of every class, I'm asking the kids a lot of questions. They sit there and they stare at me with those dead teenager eyes. I can't answer because that wouldn't be cool. Smoke. It holds layer for the smoke. Yeah, people can make fun of Tumblr all they want, but I think it is responsible for making a lot of kids aware that they have more options when it comes to identity. Yeah. I mean, I know that part of that is also a function of where I live. I mean, I live in a very, very liberal town. I know it's not the same. It's not as awesome everywhere in the United States. E, that's very kind of you to say. I hope that I have a positive impact. I'm not always successful. I know, well, or at least I'm not always aware of whether or not I'm successful. Let me put it that way. There's always a kid who there's something else going on, and I don't have the full story. I only get to work with them for 8 weeks. And I try to find whatever way I can to reach them without being a disciplinarian, right? Without being like, you're in trouble. And sometimes I get feedback that shows that I've won them over, but not always. I'm gonna put the smoke from the rocket in this layer as well. It's smoke, right? Are you talking about like Dead Poets Society or something like that? What's really cute is when there's this cycle that my teen students go through where it starts out where they're nervous because they don't trust me yet. Then they start to trust me, and that trust turns into this kind of admiration where like that not only do they trust me, but they think I'm the cool teacher. And there's this brief window where I get to feel kind of cool for a while. I mean, what makes you feel cooler than when a teenager thinks you're cool, right? I certainly never felt cool when I was a teenager, but now I get that feedback, right? But it's a very short window. And then they start to like feel like they know me, right? Like they don't, but there's like a familiarity that comes out of being in my class for a while. Like they take my class multiple times, right? This happens like the third or fourth time they take my class, maybe. And then the admiration gives way to now they can give me the business. Now they can start to give me a hard time because now they really like me, right? And so it took me a while to get used to it, but like I have learned to take it as the highest compliment when they start, I don't want to say teasing, but they give, there's no other word for it. They give me the business, they're intentionally giving me a hard time, trying to rattle me, not in any kind of like cruel way, but in like the way teens pick on each other and harass each other a little bit in that kind of loving spirit. But when it first started happening, I was like, hey, I thought I was cool. You guys said I was cool. Although that can get in the way of wanting to do the work. I'll show up and be like, all right, we're going to do this today. And they want to all be playful and give each other a rough time. And then I got to be teacher, No, I'm with you. Yeah, it's. But I mean, it's like there are times when I think I have a youthful outlook, but there's times where my adultness creeps in, and then when they say something mean about like my love of He-Man or something, I'll be like, hey, that's not polite. And I'm like, oh, that's right. That's how you guys communicate affection. All right. Yep, I'm dumb. None of my students have ever called me dumb. Right? Right. See, that's the kind of thinking that I fall into, where it's like, I'll be like, wait a minute, I thought you guys wanted to come here to draw today. But, it's like, this is one of those things where it's like, I try to put myself in that mindset of what it was like to be that age. And like, part of it is what we're doing right now, right? It's like just yakking it up with people that are into the same stuff that we're into. Right, because like even though so much has changed in the world, being a comics kid hasn't changed significantly. Like everybody's a lot more aware of comics. It's a more accepted form of literature in schools, but to be the kid who like thinks about Warriors, the comics and book series all the time, or writes Harry Potter fanfic, you're still kind of a bit of an outsider. Right? And so I see this happening with my students where they come to my class because they start to form their own little mini communities in there. Like there's kids who take the class, they sign up together, right? They meet in the class, they become friends, and then they start signing up for my class so that they can have this weekly check-in with one another. Like they don't go to the same school, this is their place to hang out. And the parents tell me as much, they're like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so are like hanging out all the time now because they met in this class. And that's another thing that like when I was a kid, I wish I would have had not just a comics class so that I could learn from somebody who knew more about it than me, but also just for that community aspect, to be around people who are as into it as I am, not just to read, but also to do, you know? These cabbages are going to take a long time. Come on, cabbages. You talking about the royalty-free music playing in the background? Yeah, I have a bunch of music that my musician brother, some of it he wrote specifically for me to use on my live streams and podcasts. Some of it was just his own compositions that he just made, and he gave them to me to use on my live streams, and they're really good. But YouTube's content ID system kept flagging them as belonging to somebody else, even though my brother has never posted them on YouTube. So I went to some royalty-free music sites and just downloaded a whole bunch of royalty-free music to play on this so that it doesn't get flagged that way. Because I talk a lot on these live streams, and I don't want the audio to get stripped away. Although I think now what YouTube does is they just like run ads against your content if it gets flagged with some kind of violation. And that too is like, I don't want ads on my stuff that doesn't benefit me. So here I am with my synthesized royalty-free music. Now, this stuff is fun to draw too. Choppy debris of dirt. Yeah, this is not the music that I typically listen to when I'm working. Although I do listen to classical music sometimes. Oh, goodness. I forgot some of the smoke in the background there. There we go. There, let's see how those cabbages are looking. Not too shabby. I just got to do the rocket and the characters. Put the rocket in the background layer. Get rid of that ruler. Delete. New ruler. Oops. On the wrong layer. I don't know if I have a favorite music right now. It totally depends on the day. It depends on the activity too. I mean, like if I'm doing penciling or writing, where it's like a lot more of my mental faculties are required. I can't talk while I'm doing it. Often it'll just be like classical, something without words in it. Another thing that I like to listen to a lot while I'm working is video game playthroughs. Listen to other people play video games, preferably without commentary, because it's my way of offloading or outsourcing my video game time. I don't get to play video games like I used to. I miss it. So I listen to other people do it. Oh, well, thanks for hanging out, Owen, and thanks for the tips today. Thank you so much for helping. Enjoy your beer and pizza. That's right. It's Friday, isn't it? It's St. Patrick's Day. Uh, Not yet, E. If you have any recommendations, I'd love to hear it. Mostly, so like I've been listening to some old Mario games that I played when I was younger. It's been fun to listen to, like, actually listen to a playthrough of Super Mario 3. Um, yeah, I tried listening to, like, because like it's no secret, I used to love the Resident Evil games, and I tried, and it's not the same. It's not the same as playing it. Whoops, wrong tool. And it's the same thing with, like, yeah, like action shooty games. Um, Typically it tends to be ones where it's a game I've played a long time ago, so like the music and the sound effects will evoke something, and I can remember. Oh, I remember this level. Little trickier if it's a game I've never played before, because I don't necessarily know what's going on, and I don't want I don't want something that's going to call my attention to the screen when I'm supposed to be paying attention to this screen. And let's go over soft inks layer. And I'm going to dry brush for this. So I'll listen to, like playthroughs of like Zelda games, ones that I played a long time ago. Wind Waker, love Wind Waker. Never finished it. Wish I could have. Love this tool too, the pinch vector line tool. So I can just adjust my vector lines after I've drawn them. That's the best. Oh, cabbages. Fix that cabbage. Oh, yes, Metroid Zero Mission. You can bet I listen to Metroid. Oh, Jonathan, you know me well. Yes, that is. Oh, game is that is satisfying to have, as like, I actually ripped the audio from it and made an MP3 so I could listen to it while I'm on my runs too. God, it's really good. Kid Icarus for the NES. I haven't listened to that one yet. And that I have fond memories of that game. I need to pull that one up. And so, okay, so my intern is all into Danganronpa, and so she's been introducing me to the soundtrack to it. And there's a lot of chiptunes music on there. I'm gonna need a smoke soft inks layer. There we go. And so as I'm listening to this, it's like I'm getting taken back to when I used to play 8-bit NES. But like it has a completely different meaning to her, right? Yeah, depending on the task I'm doing, like, so if like I can't watch. So I've been slowly watching the new season of Voltron on Netflix, which is just, in my opinion, a marvelous show. It's just terrific. Love it so much. Um, can't watch it while I'm inking, because it's gonna make me look at the screen. It's gonna take too much of my attention away. That's something where I really want to take it in while I'm watching it. But I can certainly put on old shows that I haven't watched in a long time on in the background and just listen to them. And there's certain shows that, more so than others, that have a lot more exposition. So, I was just talking about this with Greg Schiegel last night on the Lean Into Artcast about how there's certain things where, what layer am I on? I'm on the smoke soft inks. Dad, gummit. Back. Okay. Back to my background soft inks layer. Yeah, that Voltron show has no business being that good. It really doesn't. I had very, very low hopes for it because they've tried rebooting it in the past, and it's always been like, yeah, it's okay. It feels like it's, if you're nostalgic for Voltron, you'll probably like it. But this show reinvents it and fixes a lot of things that were not so great about the original, and builds on it and surprises you. And the things it changes for the better. How often can you say that about a reboot? And every character on the show is lovable. I mean, like it's. I almost dread them doing an episode where one character is featured, because whenever I check in on the show, it's like I want to see everybody. I want everybody to have a moment. And I adore Hunk. Oh my gosh. Oops. There we go. When I get to the characters, I can start working fast. Whoops. Oh, stand-up comedy franking? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a little tough sometimes because I've got like I'm super uptight about certain kinds of stand-up comedy. Like oh gosh, what's his name? Guy that I really like, and it won't be surprising to you at all that I really like him. John Mulaney. You know? It's not as fun for me to listen to like really aggressive or mean comedy or stuff with a lot of adult humor in it. And that's a lot of stand-up comedy. So it makes it harder for me to find stuff that I like. I got some trusted friends who sort of vet things for me. I'm like, okay, this one I think will be okay. Paul F. Tompkins is great. There's a lot of podcasts too for that, like comedy podcasts. And I mean, podcasting was like almost made for comedians, right? Because what's their job? Their job is to be observational and interesting and entertaining, and usually just by talking. So there you go. So even when they're just like doing like Mark Maron's WTF podcast, it's still super interesting when they're just talking about their lives, because they talk about it in a really funny way. Whereas if I were to do an interview on a show like Mark Maron's, it would not be nearly as entertaining, right? Well, I guess that's a matter of opinion. But my point is that, like, if you have me tell a story and Paul F. Tompkins tell a story, it's going to be night and day. No ego attached to that statement. I bet I could draw a truck way better than he could. Why a truck? Why did I say a truck? Yeah, I think stand-up comedy is one of those things where it's like it's really subject to taste, because you're dealing with people talking largely about like their position on life, right? Or their performance position on life. Like I think of guys like Bill Burr, who, sometimes I can take him, sometimes I can leave him, but sometimes he like hits me right dead in the middle of the face. And for the longest time, I was like, wow, it's really interesting how he builds this comedian persona that he's sort of taking down at the same time. He's like he's criticizing the persona that he's acting on stage. And then I started listening to his podcast and I'm like, oh wait, no, that's really who he is. That's really he really thinks some of these things. Had a little bit of a existential crisis about that. I'm like, wow, do I like his comedy? I don't know. I still like his comedy for the most part, but yeah, there's things he says that I'm like, yee, they make me uncomfortable. All right, I thought I spotted something on sheep that I needed to fix. Oh, there it is. All right, panel 2 is done. How are we doing on time? Oh, I'm almost at the end. I was going to get all excited thinking I could finish a whole page in an hour. Oh, well. Oh, I'm allowed to share work in progress on the book. This is a paid gig. But yeah, things are changing in the world of publishing where like they want you to build up interest and demand in the work, right? So I think the cap on it is I'm just not supposed to share like finished pages, like full finished pages. I can share snippets and pieces. So on Instagram I've been sharing lots of little pieces of the work in progress. And I'm probably going to be doing even more like streaming of stuff about the book as we get closer to its release date. But there's like a lot of material missing out of this page that I don't feel like I'm giving away anything. If anything, I'm hopefully making people curious about what this book is going to be. That's the goal at any rate. Because it would be super awesome if when this book comes out next year that it sells super, super well and then for a second says, hey, this Jerzy guy, he makes books that sell. We should maybe publish Boulder and Fleet. Maybe we should publish Pickles and Taft because we could probably make more money. And I'll say, yes, I'll be happy to get in advance to do those books and then have them be actually distributed to where kids are so that kids can read my books. I appreciate the concern, though. I mean, yeah, that would be a bum out if I jeopardized my relationship with my publisher. And yeah, I am very surprised at how much things have changed just in the past, like, 7 years in terms of how publishers think of internet content. And First Second has always been a forward-thinking publisher. I mean, like, their last couple of books that they've released, they had the authors, or once the book was finished, they actually let the author, or maybe even like encourage the author to run it as a webcomic that updated daily on their website for 6 months, and then like after it was updating for that long, then they took it down when the book was finally out in stores. But like that giving away of the content first is very appealing to me. I like the idea of believing in the material enough to let the world interact with it first before you ask them to pay for it. Like, this is so good, you'll just have to own it, right? At least that's the message I get when I encounter that kind of thing. Leave that there because I'm going to have to erase it anyway where it intersects with duck. Come on, vector eraser, work with me here. There we go. Gracious. Yeah. One question for anybody in the chat who uses the Surface Pro or any Windows 10 machine with a stylus. I'm using the Surface Pro pen with my Vaio Z canvas. I like the drag that it has on the softer tips. But every once in a while, I'll bring the pen to the screen. It'll automatically go to the eyedropper tool and sample the color. And I'm not hitting any buttons on the pen. It's something in the way I'm bringing the pen in that it's doing that. It doesn't happen with my Vaio Z pen. But with the Surface pen, it keeps happening all the time. I'm wondering if this is something that you just run into? Is this a setting thing that I'm missing? this something that doesn't happen to you? All right. The bush. Now, as much as I like doing bloopy lines, not as much a fan of doing this kind of foliage. It's so hard for me to make it look natural. I've never felt like I've really gotten it. I always get like, here's my what the voice in my brain when I'm drawing foliage is it's good enough. I guess that's fine. Anything else I need to do for the background? I think that's all soft inks stuff. All right, let's hide the background layers and just do the characters now. I'll just do a couple of them before I wrap up. Do Duck being annoyed as usual. Layer. I'll probably wind up talking about this a lot when the book comes out, but like when Anne and I were writing this, we had like very specific voices in mind for these characters. And Duck was the voice we hear when we write him is Al from Quantum Leap. Sheep, we hear Kelsey Grammer. Frasier. And Rooster is played by Bill Murray. That's how we think of their dialogue. Oh yeah, there is a foliage brush in Clip Studio Paint. I'll pull that out real quick and show you because I use it a lot for like deep background stuff. Let's do this real quick. Oh, for corn's sake, come on. All right. Yeah, in the there's like a bunch of effects brushes in here, and there's actually some pretty nice random foliage brushes, which I do use for some backgrounds in the book. There's even, man, like you can like place trees. Some of the stuff is like very clip arty, but the foliage brush is pretty nice. So I guess I could have just gone like, yeah, right. But I don't know. It doesn't integrate as well with my work, I don't think, and so I only use it for like really fine. Yeah, a foliage outline brush. Yes, yeah, that I actually, you might be onto something. Yeah, because there's these other effects brushes in here that do sort of operate like, right, like you could do, and it just creates a pattern like that. Here's the flame brush. That's interesting. Horizontal striped cloud. Oh. Massive rock. See, that's clip arty. I'm not crazy about that, but small stone. Oh, funny. That's not my style. But yes, I can see doing a brush like that. So where really all I'm doing is just drawing a contour. Oh, wait. So maybe something like, I think, snow. I could have sworn there's... Ah, here we go. So something like this, right? But... So like here's a waved line brush. All I would do is just basically trace around this shape and it would randomize the leaf pattern. So all I'm really doing is like doing like the contour of the bush. And the brush is doing the rest for me. Yep. Yep. Draw a segment of foliage outline, then say, yep, you got it. I might just do that for the rest of the book. That's not a bad idea at all. Because while, as you saw, it didn't take like a tremendous amount of time. It's like anything that can save me a little bit of time, anything that can save my wrist a little bit too, because that's something I'm also, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to get a little bit more nervous about. I'm seeing, you know, some of my friends with wrist braces when they sign books and stuff. I'm like, yikes. Oh, come on. I'm going to finish Duck, and then I'm going to wrap up the live stream. Another reason I'm doing this, besides trying to, you know, keep people aware of this book that's coming out, is I'm also trying to get in the habit of doing this, because this is one of those things where it's like, I know I should be doing it more, just in general, as a way to connect with the community and also, you know, keep people aware of all the different projects that I'm doing. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's sort of like, do I really want to take a shower? Not that I'm on camera, but it's like the same idea. Is like, I could just work in silence and not have to talk to anybody and really focus on the work. You know, I think a lot of us probably experience this. There's like a spin up to going outside and being social. And I'm always glad when I do it, but there's always like this little bit of resistance before doing it. If that makes sense. Oh, man. I had a conversation with a friend about this recently where he was asking me, he's like, well, wait a second. How come there's no Boulder and Fleet cameos in this book? And I felt, especially because, like, I wouldn't mind getting Boulder and Fleet published. I'm not counting on it. I don't have all my hopes pinned on that, but it would be cool. But especially because of that, I felt like, and especially because, like, I wouldn't mind if it happened at first second. Part of me was saying, like, you know, maybe I shouldn't be, like, dropping into this book, like, oh, and don't forget to read my webcomic. Yes, it'll be in the About the Author section, but I don't know. Something felt like it wouldn't be proper for me to. And there are references. Oh gosh, yes, it helps that I'm comfortable. Yes, you bet. Like, I can actually have a conversation with the cashier at the grocery store, you know, like, and it doesn't feel terribly awkward and awful when I do it. Yes, I'm teaching and doing podcasting has provided me with tons of practice that assists me in doing something like this. So, like, even if nobody showed up, I could just still probably talk my way through the episode. And I know I have in the past. So yes, that is certainly an asset. But all I was trying to say is that, like, yeah, like, even when I'm practiced, or even somebody with practice, there's still like this, like, little bit of resistance, like, oh, I gotta go outside today. Comics is a medium that attracts people who don't like to go out and be social butterflies, right? I'm not saying everybody in comics is introverted, but a lot of us are. I would even say that for a long time I was very introverted. I'm less so now. All right. Well, so I've got, like, it looks like I'm seeing another hour and a half on this page, maybe, with all those people I got to draw. So I'm going to wrap it up, but we can see what I did so far. Hooray for this. So I'm going to kill the stream, but thank you, everybody who showed up and hung out and shared the awesome tips. That was super, super helpful. And I'm feeling a lot more energized about finishing this page and continuing to work today. So super grateful to you guys. And if you're new to this stream, if you don't know who you're watching, well, there's my bio below the video, but Jerzy Drozd, jdrozd.com, boulderandfleet.com, and I'll be back next week with another live stream. Hey, and there's the Galaxy Super Adventure theme to see me off. Yeah, it was great. It was great hanging out with you, E, and Owen and Jonathan and Cam. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.